Me? Good evening, everybody. This is Tuesday, March 15th, 2022, Town of Monroe Planning Board regular meeting. Noreen, would you please take a roll call attendance?
Bonnie Franson.
Here.
Jason Sorinsky is absent. Jeff Manson.
Present.
Pat Shea.
Here.
And Nicholas
Napoli.
Here.
I always want to go Napoli. I don't know. Sorry. We have a quorum.
With that, we have a quorum, so we can conduct business. I'd like to point out the fire exits. There are two on either side of the back of this room. There's one to my left, the main entrance that you came in through, and then there's another out this way to a patio. With that, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the The first item on the agenda is DG Management on Scunamunk Road. If you'd come forward. Ashley, we should resolve to open the public hearing? Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we open the public hearing for DG Management located at SBL 69-1-1.2 Scunamunk Road. May I have a second?
So moved.
Noreen? Thank you.
Pat Shea.
Aye.
Bonnie Franson.
Aye.
Jeff Manson.
Aye.
Nick Napoli.
Aye.
Thank you. Why don't we start with a brief presentation of where the project stands at this point and what it is, and then we'll open it up to the public.
Sure.
Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. John Queenan from Lankin Tully Engineering, engineer for the applicant. Sure, I'm going to get up anyway. I'll just go to the board here. We're before you tonight with a proposed cluster subdivision of an existing 9.5 acre parcel of land located with what is termed along a Rico Terrace, but essentially it's up on top of the hill where the power lines are. So on the map here, if everybody can see, Rico Terrace is over here to the left of the map. Scunamunk Street is down here on the bottom of the map. So the parcel is what you see highlighted here in green, gray, and brown. Our proposal is a cluster subdivision of 9 lots that will contain a total of 15 residential units. 3 lots will be single-family homes. The remainder of the 6 lots will be duplex units, so 2 family units, for a total of 15 units. That number was achieved by a conventional subdivision plan that was reviewed by the planning board and deemed to yield a total of 15 lots. So in turn, that conventional plan was turned into this cluster layout plan, which reduced the number of lots down to 9, but kept the unit count the same at 15. There is a proposal for a 10th lot that you see here in green, which will be the remainder of the property, including the required open space lands that total approximately 1.65 acres of land. The remainder of the green is the existing Orange and Rockland power line utility easement. The lots range in size from a net lot area of approximately 10,500 square feet to a maximum of approximately 15,500 square feet. The property is located in the SR10 zoning district, where the minimum net lot size is 10,000 square feet. Access to the parcel will be provided through an extension of an existing street that's being constructed at the moment in the village. We're extending that cul-de-sac an additional 400 feet into the property from Scunamunk Street. All the lots will have frontage and access from that cul-de-sac. That cul-de-sac is proposed to be dedicated to the town on this map. All lots will be served by private well and municipal sewer service through Orange County Sewer District Number 1. Property's gone through extensive review by the planning board. We've completed a significant landscaping plan. There is one light proposed at the end of the cul-de-sac. It is currently under review by Orange County Sewer District Number 1 in the DEC for sewer. We've completed a full SWIP, and that has led the planning board to this point to have declared a negative declaration for this project. That essentially is the development plan currently proposed.
Thank you. So with that, I'm going to open it up to the public. Is there anyone here who would like to speak with regard to this application and offer comments? And if you would, please come up to the table with any comments you may have. If you have comments, just state your name and address for the record.
Ward Brower, Conservation Commission, Town of Monroe. I guess that suffices. Only one question I have, and that is, what is the maximum density per dwelling of these projects? For each unit, how many people they project at maximum? That's it.
Thank you.
That's a question that I really can't determine. I can tell you that the map shows that each unit would have 5 bedrooms. So you could probably expect a minimum of 5, maybe 6, up to, say, 8 to 10 if there were 2 people per bedroom. So that would be the range from 5 to 10.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Would you like to come up and speak, anyone? With regard to this application? No? All right, so at this time, I don't want to close the public hearing yet. Should we adjourn it and then discuss comments, et cetera, or just have Sean's comments and any comments you have be part of the public hearing record?
I guess that depends. Did you want to keep it open to the following month? You could do that now and then just have a discussion, or if you want to move on to the next public hearing. Either way, it really doesn't.
Could I
Yeah,
find-
the only, I guess, the factor in all of this is, you know, once we close the public hearing, we have to make a decision within a certain time period, and I don't know what the status of the ZBA determination is at
Sure,
this
so
point.
if I may, the ZBA held their public hearing in February, and the hearing was closed. They have yet to render a decision. So they are also under the 62-day clock. They will have to render a decision by April.
By their April meeting.
And I believe, I'm not sure if we're on the agenda for March. We have not been told yet.
Agenda for
ZBA.
ZBA for
Correct.
March. Okay.
I don't have any.
I would say that I think we should just leave it open one more meeting. We can always close it and take action if we wanted, but I think it's safer just because we don't know. We're still waiting for them to act, and I think I don't like to close public hearings and start time clocks until we have a little more certainty.
Okay, and I do know the code does allow for the applicant to relieve the board of making a decision in 62 days. I don't know if that's something the board would consider. I think the applicant would offer that, if that's your concern.
Up to the board, I think it might be the reason for keeping the hearing open is twofold, where you might also want to ensure that there's going to be no changes to the plan as a result of the ZBA process that the public would then should have an opportunity to comment on.
If we leave it open and they do make some changes and you have to, it's been left open, so we don't have to renotice it, et cetera, so.
I understand. Just so you know that the ZBA, they either have to grant or deny. It's based on the open space. So
Right.
there's really no change that can be made. If the change that can be made, it will be a complete wipe of this plan because we wouldn't get the open space variance.
Well, I think based on Ashley's recommendations, I'm inclined to leave it open to the next meeting. Does anybody else have any opinion? Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. Yeah? Anything?
I agree as well.
Okay. And again, because if we're that close and we do have a ZBA determination, Nick, did you have any opinion as to leaving it open?
No, I agree with you guys.
Okay. So,
Just one of, is next month's meeting holiday, is it do we know? Because I know we have Easter, Passover,
Be the 19th
the night.
after Easter?
Okay. Because if it's in the Passover holiday, then I couldn't appear for the applicant.
okay.
I had looked, I made the
Yeah.
calendar, I usually compare it. Lieber, when is Passover?
What's that, Luca?
15th to 23rd.
Oh, so it's,
I'm looking.
no, I know, so I guess you wouldn't be able to appear at April then on the 19th?
Probably not.
Well,
Easter's Sunday, April 17th, so that doesn't get in the way. But Passover,
what about if they came to the Thursday, April 14th meeting?
we could take that into consideration. I mean, normally we have our hearings at the regular meeting, but
Right.
to accommodate the applicant, we could. I think we just need to see where the ZBA is with all of this. So the potentially might be on a Thursday as opposed to a Tuesday.
That's fine, either way.
Okay.
Okay.
Turn to a date,
Okay,
that way it's done at the public.
right. So then I think we should just do it to that Thursday then. So what is the date?
April 14th.
So I would make a motion that we adjourn the meeting to April 14th at 7 PM or as soon thereafter, to 7:15 to continue the public hearing on this proposed action. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Maureen? Yes.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
This is the public's notice that there will be a continuation of the public hearing. There won't be any further notice. Thank you. All right, so why don't we now take any comments? Why don't we start with Sean?
There wasn't any updated plan, for the public hearing? I don't have anything for tonight.
Do you have anything?
I don't have anything either, just to wait for the ZBA, see where they go.
Okay. Board members, does anyone have a comment?
Yeah, I actually have I guess, question I want to understand a little better. In relation to the SWIP and the drainage, I understand that it's going to primarily flow into, there's some sheet flow, there's a little bit that goes through Rico Terrace. What's going to be channeled, I guess, is going to go into a trap of some kind or another. From there, where does the water go?
From there, it goes down through the proposed village street, and it will connect into, there's a proposal and a plan to extend drainage from Scunnamunk out to 208.
But there's not currently drainage out there?
No.
And so through what method is it going to go through the village street, the street in the village?
Pipe.
Sorry. Oh, so it's going to be piped that way?
Correct. Yeah, so it comes to the blue area here.
Mike?
And from out there, it's piped down the new village street, picks up that drainage, and then that drainage is going to flow down Scunnamunk.
So what happens if that drainage isn't extended?
Well, it's part of this whole,
Oh, it's part, okay,
Yes.
so that's part of that.
yes.
To be clear, so that drainage that goes and extends out, that's been approved by the village as part of the other plan?
Yes.
Okay.
The village has signed off on that plan. That plan has also been forwarded to the DOT, where it's currently under review. So, yeah.
John, is this a new Or-
Yes, the plan, it's about 6 months old at this point.
Okay, but is it addressing the Village Street issue? I know there was some communication with the village and the applicant's attorney.
I don't think
didn't-
this has anything to do with that.
This is just strictly
This is
drainage.
strictly drainage.
Where are we at this time with the village and village ownership, town ownership, the segment that's not in the town? Or has that been left?
We have left it, we received a letter from the village that they didn't want to take the road. However, the road is bonded and under construction in the village. So we'll await, maybe they will take it, maybe they won't. But in that case, we sought out an avenue that potentially the town would take it if the village did not.
Do we need anything further with regard to that? Ashley, any further discussion with the town board?
Ultimately, it would have to be a condition, of any type of approval, that it would have to be a public road in some respect and connected to a public road. I believe we had received something, I'm just trying to find it now, I thought we had received.
It-
I'll review and,
Yeah, the applicant's counsel spoke with the town council, and the feeling was that the town board wasn't against it, and they said that if that's the way it was going to work out, that they would be open to hearing our application and deciding that.
And Ashley, just reach out again to the village's attorney to get their sense of where things are and whether they were absolutely not going to.
The last letter that we got is the same letter that you have, and it
Right.
was their position that they were not,
Going to take it,
so.
yeah. Let's just check. As we get closer to making a decision, I just want to know,
Yeah. So
kind of final status.
From our perspective, if we do get preliminary and proceed on, we need to go to the town board for 2 items. One would be the road, and 2 would be the open space lot.
All right, Pat, anything?
No questions?
Nick, you have anything?
Nothing at this time.
All right, thank you. So I think that's it for this evening. So we're going to continue this to next month, our Thursday meeting, and see if we have anything by that time from the Zoning Board of Appeals and to what extent that affects anything with regard to the layout. And we'll go from there.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for being accommodating on the date.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.
So with that, the next item on the agenda is squared AHRD. J squared. Oh, Harriman Heights. I didn't see the J.
It's a lot to fit in the
I
little
saw,
box.
I saw the 2.2. Squared HH. And this is also the start of a public hearing for this particular action as well, so we'll let Mr. Morgante get his noisy easel up. So we'll open the public hearing. I will make a motion that we open the public hearing for J squared HHRD, section block and lot number 47-1-16 at Harriman Heights Road. May I have a second?
Second.
Pat seconded it. Noreen?
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Nick Napoli. Napoli, sorry.
Aye. I'm Italian.
I'm Irish, I screw everything up.
With that, the public hearing is open, so if you would, Mike, do a a presentation of the proposal, and then we'll open it up for public comment.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Morganti. I'm the project engineer for this application that's before the planning board, which consists of a small two-lot subdivision located off of Harriman Heights Road in close proximity to the intersection of 17M in the village of Harriman, but on the town line of the village of Harriman and the town of Monroe. We are in the SR 15 zoning district, and the site does have municipal water and sewer service, which we are proposing to connect to. The project as shown meets all the zoning bulk requirements for this particular zone. And what we are proposing are, again, two individual lots. Lot number 1 is about 0.46 acres in size, and lot number 2 is about the same 0.46 acres in size. Both are a 4-bedroom maximum single-family dwelling that's proposed. This project also has undergone a pretty extensive review by the planning board, predominantly as it relates to the tree plan that was prepared for this project. We did receive comments from our last meeting from Karen Arendt, who is the landscape consultant for the board. We did incorporate those changes into the plan and submit them in time for this public hearing. We did note some comments from the planning board engineer, which were some minor housekeeping items which were associated with the tree plan, but in general, the plan has been pretty fully completed. We also do have correspondence from the Village of Harriman for inclusion into their water district for this particular project. There's a resolution they prepared that we will make available to the board. We also did receive today permits from Orange County Sewer District Number 1 for connections to the sewer that's located on Harriman Heights Road. And we are still awaiting some responses from Orange County Department of Public Works for the actual permits for the driveway, but we do have a conceptual approval from them and do expect to receive an approval from them shortly. So that's a general summary of the project. At this point, I'll turn it over to the public for their comments, as well as the board and any of their consultants.
So with that, is there anyone that would like to come forward and speak with regard to this proposed application? Have any questions? Yes, sir. Why don't you come on up and speak into the microphone and just state your name and address for the record.
Sure.
Thank you.
Jamel Evans, 404 Harriman Heights Road.
Okay.
I have a few questions. I don't know the proper. Do we go back and forth, or let me just list them all? How would you prefer?
Why don't you provide us all you could direct your questions to us, and then
Okay.
we'll ask the applicant's representative to follow up.
Understood. Thank you. First, I don't usually speak in lots and everything like that, so my first question was, where is it? I had a general idea, but I wanted to confirm, so thank you, Mr. Mercante. Are there any parts of the drainage plan that are still in question? And the reason for asking is because that intersection floods pretty heavily when it rains. So just a worry regarding if we could expect with this plan more of that or less. Is that a problem they're going to be taken care of, or should people worry about additional flooding?
Sorry, just for clarity, what intersection floods?
The intersection, we were talking about the intersection of 17M and Harriman Heights Road.
Okay.
So it's literally right, because it kind of dips down at the bottom of Harriman.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear on what intersection.
Oh, my
Yeah,
apologies.
Thanks.
Should I want to go through all the questions? Sorry.
You could continue.
Okay. What would be the intention of the two lots in question once they were actually built? And my next question was going to be, can I get a closer look at this or possibly take a picture? I don't know the rules on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are those all the questions?
Oh, I got more.
Oh, you got more? Well, why don't you
I'll
do
take a
the
picture
questions
first.
and then
Sure.
take the picture?
All right.
Also, the plans, I believe, are online as well on the
Oh, they
town's
are?
web.
Okay.
I believe so. I could double check, but they
Should be on the
usually
town
are.
website, but I'll check tomorrow.
Thank you.
Got
Yeah.
a new website, and I'm not sure if they all transferred over.
Okay. I just had the certified letter, so I didn't know exactly how to look into it a little bit more. So sorry for my generic questions. Who, and I don't know if this is something that is made public usually, but who would be the owner of these lots? Can we get an idea of who this is, and is there any way to see what they've done with other properties in our area or anywhere else? From what I believe I know about that area, there's the mechanic's location, there's the lot where I guess the mechanic also owned previously, as well as a house and woods. So it's a pretty substantial amount of space. Is the intention to make 2 lots out of all this space? Is this a subset of that large space? Are we? And I'm mostly focused on the woods because it's pretty important to the road. So is this a lot that's going to be where the current house is, or other parts of the property? And maybe I can figure that out once I take a picture of the
Well,
plans.
and again, we'll go through all of these.
Okay. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay.
If I have any follow-up questions, do I come back up?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
So I was just trying to look real quick to see if, yeah, they're not there. Okay. So they don't appear to be there right now. I was just checking the website to see if it was there. So the location is in that wooded area that you were speaking of on Harriman Heights Road. This is an aerial view of it. So we have the 17M and Harriman Heights Road intersection, and it's this parcel that's right in here. There is a house, a dwelling, right on the edge of the property line as you approach 17M.
Yeah, the other TV's not working.
Oh,
We only have
What the
one screen
heck?
tonight.
they're not connected?
I don't know, the other one's black.
George, do you know why the other TV might not be working? Do we have to turn it on? Oh, George? Is it black as if it's not turned on, or looks like it has a green light on? George, you there? Up into it. Jeff's checking. Do you think it might have just wiggled out? The lights are on and the green light is on, but it's not showing the image. Yeah. Yeah. And it's showing on this one, so I don't know why it
Yeah.
wouldn't show the other. Oh. All right. Well, maybe they'll both come up. That's what this one says, too.
Now they're up.
All right, yay. Good job. All right, sir.
What a touch.
So if you want to take a look quick, this is the parcel here. This is an aerial, and to orient you, this is Harriman Heights Road, and this is Route 17M. I think, is this the Avis? Or, no, this is the Avis. Or the
87 is,
the Gold
yes.
Gas Station. I
Thank
think
you.
one of these is the rental. I shouldn't say it's
right,
Avis.
the one next to that is,
Right, and then you were talking about the mechanics, I think is down here. And then there's a house right on the edge, and it's this wooded lot that we're talking about. So that's the location. I will let the engineer address drainage. The intent is that there be 2 lots there. Both lots would front to Harriman Heights Road, and they are being designed to accommodate a single-family dwelling on each of those lots. So there would be 2 new single-family dwellings that would be constructed. And yes, it is in the wooded area, so there is going to be some clearing of the property to accommodate it. But one of the items that's been part of the review is to try and retain some of the vegetation and then supplement the vegetation, because in the town of Monroe, as per the zoning regulations, Harriman Heights is designated a scenic road. So they have to do something to enhance the appearance of the lots. So that's part of the plan. We'll have the applicant's engineer respond. So, Mike, why don't you come up and speak to the drainage and to the landscaping?
The plan? Yeah, I'm going to address the drainage first, and I'm going to put that plan. So, as it relates to drainage, it's two single-family dwellings. The limits of disturbance for this particular project is certainly less than 5 acres. I believe it's even less than 1 acre. So stormwater management from a quantity standpoint and even a quality standpoint, as it relates to New York State DEC SWIP regulations, is not required. Typically, a small project like this does not generate significant amounts of runoff that would impact anything downstream of it. So as it relates to the actual development of a drainage mitigation plan, nothing's been prepared. I would also note that this plan has been reviewed by Orange County Department of Public Works, and in their initial comment letters, they had no questions or concerns as it related to drainage for this particular project. So we've prepared what's called an erosion and sediment control plan for this project to make sure that we deal with any erosion and sedimentation that could result from the project accordingly, to make sure we keep all that on site and address it. But as it relates to quantity and quality, nothing's been prepared for this project as it's not required.
And then the landscaping?
Yep, let me put that plan up. So I'll start with the tree survey plan. As you can see, we spent a lot of time and effort to map all the trees that are on site that are, I believe, over 6 inches in diameter. So that's shown here as an extensive tree survey table. We noted the trees that were going to be removed from the site. And then what we also did was we prepared a tree plan, or tree planting plan, which is shown on this particular sheet. It's worth noting that in addition to the actual tree planting plan, what we've proposed is there's an existing stone wall on the site that we're going to relocate along the property line's frontage as it relates to Harriman Heights Road. We think it'll be a nice additional architectural feature. And in these areas here, in between the sides of the dwellings and the property lines, we're proposing some white firs, some service berries, some dogwoods, red maples, and eastern redbuds. I would note that the town's landscape consultant is a very well-respected and thorough reviewer of landscape plans, and they've reviewed this and found this plan to be acceptable. There'll be probably nicer trees that we're planting right now that are actually there, that will be there when we're done, that are not there now. So that's what we're proposing right now as it relates to the actual tree plan, and that also addresses, I think, your question for as it relates to drainage. I think you've met the owner of the lots. Yes, that's Mr. Edwards. So he will be building on speculation. I believe he'll build the houses and sell them. So that should answer that question. You know where it is now. We just answered your drainage questions. He's developed quite a few properties within the town of Monroe. Yeah. And I think that's about it.
Let me see if anyone else has comments, and then I'll get back to you. Is there anyone else who would like to come up and speak with regard to this project? Any questions you have with regard to the property itself? Comments, concerns? Anyone? Why don't you come back up and again, just state your name for the record. It's part of the minutes.
No worries. Jamel Evans. So follow-up question regards, actually a follow-up to the previous, I guess, developer. I would like if there's no issues with that, to talk to the people of the road. We have a lot of people that have been there for many decades and that are very familiar with the woods and as they currently are. So I'd like to get their input as well. I know we all receive certified letters, which is great. But I'd like to get their input as well. I don't know what the rules are on that or that request. I know previously it seems like we were able to do that for the previous contract.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, they're sent certified notice of the public hearing, correct?
Yeah.
And you, as just a member of the public, if you want to reach out to them, you're welcome to do that. That's not something that we control or,
Sure.
If you want to speak to your neighbors.
Would there be another hearing for them to be heard, I guess is my follow-up there.
Well, that's something this board has to decide, is whether we continue the public hearing or whether we adjourn it, and that depends in part on what's outstanding and how close we are to having completed the process.
Understood.
So we won't necessarily hold it open just to hold it open, but if there are items that might change, it's still not quite complete, then we will. So that's something we have to discuss.
Okay, understood. I mean, from my perspective, obviously, just a member of the public, I didn't have any former information regarding this. So now that I do, I can
Right.
have a more intelligent conversation.
Sure,
with
understood.
people.
There's nothing stopping you if we were to close the hearing. We still would not take up a decision until, at least our next meeting. And so there's time for you, if you do have comments or questions, to still submit them via email or in writing before that meeting, so we can consider them.
All right, that's fair. Thank you. And the gentleman said he'd be able to send me additional information regarding other properties in the area, so I think that would be great to consider as well.
Okay,
Yeah. And that's all I got. Thank you very much.
thank you. Thank you for attending.
I have a question, Madam Chairman.
Sure.
Yeah, if I could ask. I just want to clarify what your concerns are. The concerns are the possible flooding
Yes.
down there, drainage, lack of trees or trees coming down, and the change in the neighborhood there. Anything else?
No, those are the main ones. And the reason why I've had flooding in my so these woods are right next to my house. I'm the house next to the woods. So that's for selfish reasons. I'll be honest, I'm afraid of my house flooding more.
So you have the house that's right up by the road?
I am 404 Harriman Heights Road.
404. Oh, you're upstream then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you just put a porch on your house?
Yes, I
or-
did.
Yeah, okay. That's very nice work there.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. My wife will appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we just want to do our due diligence to make sure everything is taken care of because, while we do it and while we have enjoyed those
Sure.
trees since 91, 92,
Right.
for them to go away it hurts, I'll be honest. But if, in my mind, the rest of the street is okay with it, I'll be okay with it eventually. But I would want to get their input as well. I'm not going to try and, end this thing. I just want to make sure, excuse me, that we know what we're getting into. You know what I mean?
I can sympathize with you.
Yeah, that's
Is this your home?
correct.
Okay. So you're the adjoiner to...
Correct. And it looks a lot more beautiful during the spring and summertime. Don't let the
Oh, of course.
the trees fool you.
Yeah, and that's why we are, trying to the extent possible, preserve some of the trees and tree lines so that you
Correct.
have something that's already there instead of entirely clear cut.
Correct, and that's why, and if you're able to see it, once again, I know all decisions aren't made off of one person, but if you're able to go up a little bit, there is a sunroom off the side, and, we'd be looking into someone else's house, which is something that we never planned for, because I grew up my whole family grew up with the impression that those were protected in some way, so I could be completely wrong about that. But now hearing that they can just be knocked down, I'm like, well, damn, sorry.
Well, yeah, I don't know that we've seen anything in the record. It's privately owned.
Yeah, so that's.
And I don't know if there was an easement or if this was part of another subdivision or something where it had been set aside as open space. I don't think we've seen anything to that
Okay.
effect. And as a surveyor, you haven't seen anything else, surveyor, engineer.
Okay.
Yeah, so that might have been something that someone said, but,
Yeah, I purchased a house for my parents many years ago, so we always heard that these are protected, and the gentleman that used to live on the house on the other side, I believe he said the same thing many years ago before he passed away.
okay.
So, yeah, not saying it makes it true, of course, but just putting it
Right.
out there.
Right, well, I think that would be something that if you found in the record or if you had information on, then you can pass it on to the planning board.
Of course.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Come on up. Name for the record, affiliation.
Excuse me. Ward Brower, Conservation Commission, Town of Monroe. Just one question on the selection of that white fir. It's not a native to this area, so what's the purpose of it? Just purely for aesthetics and landscaping, or is it to replace a native species? Because that's what you're doing. That's my only. Thank you.
We'll ask that of the landscape architect. We'll ask Karen her thoughts about white fir. I mean, it's in part just to get some screening and have evergreen there, but if there's something that would be more appropriate, it can be considered. If you have any suggestions, Ward, just let us know. But we'll reach out to Karen also and ask her that question.
If that would be changed, I don't think we would take any exception to it.
Okay. We'll find out from Karen. So if you could follow up with her, that'd be great. All right. Being there does not appear to be any more public comment, I don't see anyone raising their hand. Let's decide, do we want to adjourn this hearing or do we want to close this public hearing? What do we still have as far as outstanding items?
There really isn't much of anything left. Like as I had noted before, we have sewer permits. We have a resolution from the Village of Harriman for water connection. We are still waiting on a final acceptance letter from Orange County Department of Public Works for the driveway access points. However, they are conceptually approved. There's some minor typos and cleanup items on the plans. I think Ashley wanted me to add a couple of notes to 2 sheets, so it's very, very, very minor stuff that's outstanding. And I mean, we would seriously appreciate the board's consideration of closing the public hearing tonight. I'd also like to make a note that our tree cutting deadline is March 31st for this particular site. So if the board cannot render any action tonight on some type of an approval, is it within the board's purview to be able to allow us to cut trees? Otherwise, this waits till November.
So we can't render a decision, we don't have a resolution. So that's, we don't have the potential of doing an approval this evening. As far as cutting or doing any advanced work, I think it's a question for the building inspector. I don't know if our regulations say that no activity can occur before the approval. I know we have completed seeker, so that aspect of it is done.
Jurisdictions have a clearing or grading permit. I don't know that you have a separate.
Right,
Not aware of a clearing or grading permit.
right. So I don't know that we can at this point. I think that's something we can research. I don't know that, it could be that it's something that can be obtained through a permit that's otherwise not, the planning board's purview. So I think we could do some research, but if it's something that the planning board has to approve, then.
So my understanding from experience with the building department is that you can prepare a tree cutting plan submitted to them in accordance with the code, and I think they can issue a permit for that. And we do have that as a part of these plans.
So I know that we have a tree section of our zoning chapter.
Right.
And there is a separate permit you can get if it's not in connection with a subdivision or a site plan.
That's correct. Right.
I don't know that now that you have a subdivision or site plan, whether that option is open to you. So I just don't know the answer to that. I'd have to have Ashley and Sean research that and communicate with the building inspector.
All right.
There are probably 2 separate permits, where one when you're actually proposing with either a subdivision or a site plan, and one where it's just to remove the trees. We could look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best we can do is look into it between now and the 31st.
Yeah.
and see what can, if anything, be done. But we really can't, I don't know that we have the authority to just allow it at this point. And again, we're not ready for an approval, so we're likely there next month.
Okay. All right, I mean, it's unfortunate. It puts the applicant in a bad position financially and time-wise, having to wait until November. So if there's something in the code that can be done by this planning board in conjunction with the building department, it would be,
Yeah, I mean, we would consider it. We just have to see what we can do at this point. It affects everybody who's Indiana bat, territory. We don't control that, so.
understood. But you can control if you can help with anything with the building department, if there's an avenue to
Yeah,
to do so.
I'm going to have Ashley and Sean communicate with Ben and see what can be done, if anything.
Okay. And would the board, if Ben needs something in writing from the board, would they be willing to provide him with something in writing that would allow him to grant us the ability to cut the trees?
I don't know that he normally requires something from us for that purpose.
Okay.
But if the code requires the board to grant permission or whatever, however it's stated in the code, would the board?
Yeah, I just don't think, I guess from my recollection of the code, I don't think that there's anything there that would require us to consent to something. Either it's a permit from Ben or it's part of the subdivision. Let us take a look and see what we can find.
Because I do believe we've reached an agreement on the trees to be cut, the trees to be planted, if we're switching a few things here and there, but we do know what is going to be removed. It's pretty clearly delineated in the plan, so I feel we've reached that point, and if there's a way to help this happen, it would be appreciated, just so that it's not a delay for 6 months.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And to that end, I'll get to it in my comments, but the plan view from my notes from last meeting when we discussed, what trees should stay or not, it appears to have been updated pursuant to that discussion, so.
So again, let us do research.
Sure.
So I guess the first item on the agenda, or for us to consider, is whether we should close a public hearing or if we should continue it. Ashley, do you think in terms of what's been submitted, and Sean, what's been submitted, are we pretty close to the end, that we think that we're going to be able to do an approval?
In my opinion, yeah.
You think so?
Yes, I think there's some things with the tree plan and how the board's going to address, because they're not doing a one-to-one basis. They're not replacing for everyone that they're removing, so that's something you'll have to address. I think that's really the main thing outstanding for the board to address. Everything. Approvals.
Is that a fee in lieu of? Is that how the code works? So we would just have to establish what that is.
I believe the code actually sets forth what the fee is, but you have to find that the replacement basis they're proposing is acceptable.
Okay.
Yes. Or you could, if there's somewhere else off-site that they're.
Okay. I always get concerned about the 62 days, just because I get concerned about the 62 days. So if we were to close the public, if we close the public hearing and something new pops up, as far as information, something we didn't know, can we reopen the public hearing or no?
It's hard to.
Because I don't
An
know what
example,
happens with the
yeah,
time
of what-
clock.
Yeah, there's no, unless the applicant agrees to reopen it, or if you wanted to keep it open, you could always accept comments for a set.
Right.
Reopening it unless the applicant's going to agree to do that and to waive that 62 days. It would have to be something really significant, I think, to have to warrant essentially a new hearing.
So if we close the public hearing at this point, we can leave it open, though, to public comment for another 2 weeks?
For written public comment?
Public comment?
Yes.
Okay,
We take no exception to that.
okay.
And I would say, I believe that 62 days, which is at least 2 more meetings, should be adequate to complete this, but I'll speak to the applicant. I'm sure they would consider
Right, if we
waiving-
found
waiving
something.
that if we have to.
Yeah, I mean, if there was something significant,
Yeah,
then,
we will look at whatever the written comment is. If there's something that absolutely changes the outlook of this, we'll certainly deal with it and work with the board in that matter.
okay. So, board members, do you feel strongly whether we should leave the public hearing open to the next meeting and then close it, or should we close it this evening? Any thoughts on that? And again, just to reiterate, what happens is when we close the public hearing, we start a time clock. And then we have to make a decision within 62 days. If we don't make a decision within 62 days for some reason, then it's actually an automatic approval. So, that's the particular concern when we close a public hearing. If we think that we're far enough along and we're talking about, really approving this at the next meeting, I don't think we're that concerned. I would suggest, so that we leave the record open for another 2 weeks, so that if there's any public comments, especially the gentleman who attended this evening, if he wants to put anything into the record, he has a couple weeks to do so. So if we closed it, I'd like to, though, leave the written record open. So, any thoughts?
My only thought is I would like to have the owner and yourself confer with the gentleman to see what can be done to mitigate whatever his concerns are. Not that you could necessarily, but to the extent that you could try, it would be good.
Oh, absolutely. We'll work with them outside the meeting, and again, whatever written comments are submitted, if they're substantial and it's nothing we haven't addressed already as a part of the process, we will certainly look at it and be willing to address it. And if it helps the board's position tonight, I mean, we can certainly waive the 62-day timeline right now. I don't see it being an issue, but I think we can certainly waive it, and I think we'll be fine either way.
I don't have so much of an issue with closing the public comment tonight. I feel like we do need to nail down the issue that Ashley discussed, which is where are we on, just looking in the tree preservation code, basically either trees have to get replaced on a one-to-one basis or on a basis acceptable to the planning board, added to the property, or added elsewhere in the town of Monroe as requested by the applicant and approved by the planning board and the Monroe Conservation Committee, and there's more. And it talks about, various fees and that sort of thing. I think we've gotten to, in my opinion, I think we've gotten to a good point as far as agreeing on what trees that are there can be preserved and still, be able to develop the property, as well as what's to be added there. The question is ultimately, have we reached a point where we're willing to say it's on a basis acceptable to the planning board, and that there's no consideration of still the balance of there's quite a few more trees being removed than being replaced. I'm not saying we haven't, I just don't know if we've gotten all the way to the end of that conversation. That's really my only concern.
Thank you. Nick, do you have any thoughts?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay. So, with regard to the trees and the mitigation, quick question. Do the trees have to go on town property? They can go basically anywhere in the town?
Added elsewhere in the town as requested by the applicant and approved by the planning board and the Monroe Conservation Commission. So they obviously would need the property owners if it's not going to be public property and the town's not going to have them on town property, wherever they would be proposed, that owner would have to.
So do we have to make the determination, or does the applicant offer? So in other words, does the applicant offer the fee, or do we indicate what our preference is first?
The applicant the applicant right now is requesting to replace, replacing 29 or
And that
something like
ballpark,
that. Moving like 90
yeah, around there.
around that, so there's some 60, 70 trees that, I guess that's a question for the applicant, whether you're proposing to just pay the fee. I believe it's $750 for each tree that's not being removed and replaced, or $350 if it's being replaced on another site.
I think I have to discuss this with the applicant. We're well aware. I don't know that we want to engage in this conversation tonight. I would encourage this board, though, to take a look at that section of the code. I don't know it was well-written for a project as this. I mean, this is not a large development where we're clear-cutting hundreds, tens of acres. And that code was written, to me, apparently, for some kind of a project like that, as opposed to this. This board's going to get lots of little individual site plans and two-lot subdivisions that put a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 onus on an applicant to replace trees on a one-to-one basis or to pay for it, and it economically bankrupts the project.
So is there any waiver, or there's not a waiver?
It seems there should be, or there should be like a
Yeah.
case A, case
Well,
B, case C.
I don't know that there is, so that's something that the town board perhaps to examine if there's not.
Well, I don't know that there isn't. I mean, so in that same section, I'm in, where am I?
I mean, it was our intention to
I'm
possibly
in,
discuss it.
I'm in
with the town board.
5784 under tree, I think that's where I'm at. 5784, E. In lieu of replacing all trees taken down, the planning board may, upon request of the applicant, authorize the applicant whose tree plan is being considered to pay the town parkland fee and a fee of $350 per tree of 6 inches DBH or more as being replaced on another site. I guess the question is, where does that may hinge? And, you know, is that to imply that we
You don't have to approve, you could require them to replace everything. I mean, obviously, it could be difficult if there's not space to replace everything. But that's where and
It's a
Word, as you-
very
I mean-
strictly written code with
right?
no
I mean, you're the board
flexibility.
attorney. But the way I interpret that is that there's some discretion in how that's exercised. That we can make the decision that what is being proposed as far as replacement is satisfactory, or that a portion of the fees might be appropriate, or
I'm not sure that it's a portion. I think it
Yeah, I
was
don't
in
know.
lieu of replacing all trees taken down. They can request that the tree plant being considered to pay the town a fee of $750 per tree which is being removed and not replaced, and a fee of $350 per tree 6 inches DBH or more that's being replaced on another site. These increased upon certified evaluation by an arborist, forester, or landscape architect, or the current value of each removed or replaced tree. Because $750 for a mature tree is actually very little, because it's also salvageable. You know, in terms of depending on what the wood is, you can get value out of it.
This is-
So-
If it's a property that can be logged for the type of wood that's valuable for lumber, I would agree with you. That is not this site. It's not even close.
Well, I think, as you said, at this point, we have to go through this. We're not going to make a determination. You need to talk to your client, and it's conceivable that you have a neighbor who might be interested in some screening as an alternative, which may reduce that cost. So that might be a conversation you want to have. So that's, okay, so you raise that in response to the question whether we should adjourn a public hearing. So should we can still have that discussion at the next public hearing,
We have to.
at the next meeting, which is when we have to hold it, but then we have to come to determination if we're going to actually then act at that same meeting. So we have to really be setting the stage for this in advance of the meeting, in other words. We can't wait to the meeting to have the discussion if we're trying to also do some kind of approval,
I agree.
so. So,
if you close the public hearing today, you'd have until May. So if, but it should obviously be far along at the following, meeting next month. Otherwise, potentially, you could wait until May to issue an approval. Question, if there's going to be some planting potentially on another property, then that's some time to put together a plan to do so, have it reviewed by Karen. You'll need authorization from that, other person, or if it's going to be on town property, there's, I guess, a few considerations.
I think it makes sense for us to waive the 62-day decision timeline. That give us plenty of time to work, just in case there's any other issues that come up.
Okay, just so we can close the public hearing,
I think
but,
it makes sense.
so you're able to speak on behalf of the applicant to waive the 62 days to close the public hearing?
Yes.
Is that acceptable, Ashley? To put it on the record? Okay, so let the record reflect that the applicant has waived the 62-day decision timeframe. Not that we're trying to extend it, just
Just to
in
give us
case
more
there's
time
some
in case we need it.
complication.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Or you could also do or the mutual,
yes, mutual consent.
or does a motion consent that the board can approve a motion consenting that the 62-day deadline for rendering a decision after the close of the public hearing is going to be extended by the applicant, I guess, until they notify the board that it's no longer, they're no longer consenting
Okay,
That's fair.
upon, but that would then trigger another 62 days. So it'll be indefinitely until,
until you say that can't be extended, then the 62-day timeframe will then get triggered.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed, yes.
Would you like to make that motion?
Before I do,
Okay.
question, maybe comment. In a public hearing situation, because we haven't done a lot of these, would it be appropriate if I made a comment in relation to one of Mr. Evans' concerns? Is that in relation to some of the trees being cleared and that sort of thing? In relation to
have a comment that's, if it,
I think so.
yeah.
Mr. Evans, if I may. So, obviously, trees have been a big part of our conversation about this application from day one. And one of the things that we're permitted to do as a planning board is do a site visit, which the majority of us were out to the site, we walked the site, we looked at the individual trees, we've been discussing trees quite a bit. One of the things that I can tell you is, number one, we've been particularly sensitive to the trees along the perimeter of the development. Particularly along the property line that divides this property from your property. And the applicant has both agreed to save some of those trees. There were several trees that we brought back into the project to keep, and a few trees, as I remember, were added along the property line with your concern in mind. So anticipating that, as not knowing that you were the neighbor, but that there was a neighbor. Just want to let you know, this board did look at that particularly, and the applicant was willing to do some additional preservation or additions to help screen your property. There will be quite a number of trees coming down on this property one way or the other. To develop houses there, it just has to happen. But your concern was one of the concerns of this board, and I just want to assure you of that.
No, I think right now we're trying to decide whether we're going to close the public hearing. I think that Member Manson indicated that he just wanted you to understand the history and the extent to which we looked at the trees on this particular site. So, and it's still not resolved yet as far as the mitigation, and that's ongoing.
And yes, I would make a motion that we close the public hearing tonight and move into working towards a final application.
Okay, so I think first we're going to make a motion, before that motion, we'll make a motion that we consent to the extension of the public hearing, the decision time period, and that upon notification that the applicant no longer consents to that extension of time, at that time, the 62-day time period will start tolling, within which we have to render a decision.
Correct.
So I guess that's a motion. May I have a second?
And I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Or it'll
Noreen?
start running, it'll be told in the interim, so it'll start running once the notice is received.
Okay.
Do you also need to make a motion to keep up written comments for a period of 2 weeks?
That's going to be our second motion. So first, we're accepting the extension of time for a decision. Jeff did.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson.
Aye.
Nick Napoli.
Aye.
Okay. Now you could do the motion for the public hearing subject to allowing the record to remain open for additional public comment. We should do a date certain, right?
Written.
Written comment. What's 2 weeks, about 2 weeks from now?
29th.
So we'll say 29th by, what's close the day? 4 p.m. Okay. So let's say the 29th, 4 p.m.
It's received by
By 4 p.m. on
March 29th.
March 29th.
It could either be emailed or dropped off, mailed, but they have to be received by that date.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Nick Napoli.
Aye.
So, sir, that allows you to talk to your neighbors. If you have comments, you have 2 weeks to get written comments in by 29th and close a business day, which is 4 p.m. for the planning office. You can email Noreen. You can drop it off. Yes. All right. So we've closed the public hearing, and we have the extension of the time frame. So, Sean, were there any comments that you had that I need to pull up?
Sure. I'll wait for you. So, as I mentioned earlier, the plan indicates the discussion that was held last time as to preserving or taking of additional trees. However, the table that corresponds to that plan just has to be updated pursuant to those discussions and changes to the plan. Then, obviously, we've been talking about how the board wants to handle the mitigation and the fee in lieu of the one-to-one replacement. Obviously, that needs to still be addressed. I did forward this current plan to Karen for review and final acceptance. There was an interim review by Karen between last meeting and this meeting that Mike's addressed or tried to address those comments, so we'll just wait for her to get back to the board on that. And then with regards to the stone wall fence, they did provide a picture with a few notes on, I forget what sheet number, but it is shown at the right-of-way line last time. And with regards to outside agency approvals, Mike has spoken to those, but I noted those in comment 5. And that's all I had.
Ashley, do you have comments?
In addition to I had emailed Mike some just map note changes and where to put certain things on the plans prior to the next submittal. Since this is a subdivision that's adding residential units, you'll have to address recreation fees. You typically do that in a resolution, and public improvements as well, which I'm not sure there's.
Board members, do you have comments? Sorry that I landed on that.
I'm good.
You're good? Nick, do you have any comments? Pat?
One question, following up on Mr. Brower's question about maximum population of the homes. How many bedrooms?
It's noted as four bedrooms on the plans, max 4 bedrooms.
Footprint in square foot?
It's a 30 by 50, so it's roughly a 1,500 square foot footprint. The first floor will probably have a garage under, though. So whatever that is, in terms of livable space, it'll be a little less than 1,500 square feet on the first floor.
Livable. Very good.
Is the garage going to be at the basement level and then 2 stories above that?
Most likely, yeah.
No, actually.
I was, well,
To be on the mic, Paul.
Okay, yeah, come on up.
They're probably going to be 3 bedrooms, not 4 bedrooms.
Okay,
We're-
given the size of the lots?
Correct. So
Okay.
They'll more than likely be 3 bedrooms. That's the preliminary plans. I got approved. Small colonials, 2-car garages at grade, and the net will be about 2,200 square feet of living space.
Are they,
3 bedrooms, probably.
are they going to be colonials or bilonials?
Colonials.
Colonials, okay.
Because it works better on that lot, so you can adjust the garage a little bit
Okay,
for the grade.
so you'll have the garage coming in, that'll be the first level, and then you'll have a story above it.
Right,
Okay,
right.
very good.
Thank you.
All right. So I think in terms of, did you want to bring up anything else? Anything you want to? I mean, we're aware of the tree request, so we're going to look into that
Right.
as
And
far
I-
as the cutting.
You know, I just wanted to add, at the last meeting, somebody, I don't remember who, but somebody on the board brought up that they were surprised the number of trees, the total number. We were counting them up last time, and they said it appeared, maybe you said it, Jeff, I think you said, I can't believe there's that many trees. So because you said that, I went back out there and I checked, and 2 things I noticed on the tree table is that 31 trees are ash trees, which Ward will agree and everybody will agree are in some degree of death. They're all dying with a blight going on right now. So I felt that was kind of unfair that I have to replace trees that are dying. In addition, because of Jeff's comment, I looked at the diameter of the trees, and there was 43 trees that are listed as 6-inch trees. So I went around and located all these trees.
At diameter breast height?
Diameter of what?
DBH, it's called diameter breast height. I think that's what we,
Well, that's what I did.
like around 4
Jeff-
feet up,
yeah,
right?
That's what I did, yeah. And I'm a carpenter by trade, so I measured the diameter. And what I noticed is the majority of the trees were actually a little less than 6 inches. So I reached out to the surveyor and I said, why you have them listed as 6 inches? You got 43 trees, but most of them are like 5.5, 5 3/4. He said, I just rounded them off. So I said, that's a problem. I said, because now I have to replace the ones that you rounded off, and it's really not right that you did that. So I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention, and I'd be happy to meet Ward on site or one of the other members to just verify what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
like I said, you can look at the table and see, there's 43 trees that are 6 inches in diameter, and there's 32 or 31 that are ash trees, and none of them look like they're alive on the site.
I don't know to what extent the regulations deal with this, but from my perspective, if they're basically almost dead, I think it's fair not to, from my perspective, it's fair not to include them because they're dying. They're not going to be there.
Right, he didn't differentiate the guy, and he listed them as ash trees.
Right.
There's 31 of them.
And then I don't think there's anything within the code that says you have to measure in inch, right.
Right, he
They have to
rounded
round
everything
it up.
Because he knew he was only supposed to do
Because
6 inches.
if they're 5.5, well, he didn't know that there's a tree code where this would
Correct.
come
He
into
wasn't
effect.
familiar with it.
So, if we're getting to, 5.999, it's one thing, but 5.5,
The
I think.
majority were. I think there was like 35 out of 43 that were like that.
So obviously this affects then your payment. So if there is a payment or how we handle this, were you going to go have them survey or how are we going to handle this?
we were going to have them revise the plan. We can go back out there and double check all the trees. It's funny because who mentioned it? Was it Pat? I thought there were mostly saplings out there.
Yeah, I
so
don't
was
remember there
quite
being large diameter.
Right, I was quite surprised myself when I saw all the 6-inch, but I didn't question the professional's judgment on it. So, so we can double check that and accordingly rewrite whatever's on that table to reflect what's there.
I mean, there's,
Just comment, oh,
go ahead.
there is a provision for the removal of dead trees, so you are permitted as of right to remove dead trees, provided they're determined to be dead by an arborist, forester, or landscape architect prior to being removed. Dead trees do not need to be replaced once removed, except upon the direction of the planning board as part of a subdivision or site plan. So that, if you're removing
Dead
truly dead
trees.
trees.
But that doesn't mean that a branch has come off. Yeah, that means like hollowing, that means, clear distress that this is not going to survive. So we still have to resolve, though, the issue of when you can cut. So if we can resolve that, we need to get someone out sooner than later as far as that survey and refining it to get to a number.
Like I said, I'd be happy to go out with somebody from the Monroe Ward Conservation Commission just to verify that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if the surveyor comes out and he's measuring, if you're there, if Ward wants to go out or if someone wants to go out just to verify and to review, or someone from the planning board, why don't you let Noreen know when you're going to be out there? When the survey's going to be happening, when you're going to be out there. Maybe we could get someone from the planning board, or maybe Ward will be available to attend as well.
We can do that, yeah.
That'd be appreciated. Okay?
This does come to the question, though, I don't know, because you're not issuing any type of approval tonight, how they'd be able to move forward with the removal.
Yeah, no, so I think first we're just trying to straighten out what your payment's going to be, either payment or replacement. So that we have to do right away. So with the surveyor, and then, again, someone could witness it. Separately, there has to be a conversation with Ben and Ashley and Sean to determine whether or not you can proceed with cutting of trees. But yeah, because what's going to happen if if for some reason you can do it and you cut the trees and you haven't surveyed it, we're back to the old number. So that's why it's.
If I had a surveyor to come back out there to verify the diameter of the tree, I'd like to see.
On the mic.
I don't know if it makes sense. He surveyed the location of them with the GPS and everything, so that's not in question. It's just a matter of the diameter.
Yes,
And he's
right.
going to measure with a tape measure like I am, and I could verify it with a board member or ward. So I don't see the necessity for a surveyor out there because we know the location of the tree. It's just
Yeah.
the diameter.
Well, then, as long as there's someone who can go out there and see what the diameter is. Well, why don't you contact us? We'll talk to Ward. We'll see who we might be able to get out there to come up with a plan for how to reassess the trees.
Somebody from our office can, verify the diameter if the board is willing to have us do that.
That's an option too. So,
The table will have to be revised to reflect whatever the
right,
true,
what the true diameter is.
or only identify those that are 6, or.
The easiest thing would be to just pull off from the plan the ones that are less than 6 inches that are now noted as 6 inches, that's it.
Did he tag them?
I don't think he tagged them, no.
Because how are you going to be able to know which trees are the ones he called out?
Let's,
By the ones that are
GPS?
surrounding it?
Yeah.
By the ones that are surrounding it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think we have enough of it. We have every tree on the site almost identified, so I think we could find the clumps of them and figure out by identification where we are.
Is-
Size and type, yeah.
Is Sean in your office? No?
On Brady?
Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry. Not trying to remember where, do a lot of professionals. I'm trying to figure out who might be able to go out.
We have a biologist in our office if you'd like him to attend.
Would they know? Would they know about trees?
Yes.
All right, let's start the dialogue tomorrow. We'll figure out how to get someone out there and see if Ward or someone from the Conservation Commission can witness it and help. We'll figure this out,
Fine.
okay? Or someone from Sean's office, we'll figure it out. Anything else?
I haven't found anything at all in the tree preservation article that addresses the issue around the time of year the trees are taken, or any sort of authority to, I guess, permit outside of that. But it doesn't mean necessarily that if it's in Town of Monroe Code that it would be under tree preservation. It's just the most like, I was just looking to see if I could find
Sure.
what, Ashley mentioned other municipalities she's seen have, and I was wondering if we'd have it in tree preservation. So obviously we do have to look more into the code on that, but it doesn't seem to be in that article.
Yeah, some do it, some allow it once you've gotten through seeker. Because during seeker, you're not supposed to alter the site. But once you're out of seeker, then some communities may allow it, but I don't know that we do. unless it's through a permit process, possibly with Ben. So that's what we have to follow up on.
All right.
All right. Anything else, Paul? Nothing? Okay. All right. So I think we've addressed this application to the extent we can this evening, and we'll just continue the dialogue in between between this meeting and the next meeting.
Yeah, and hopefully before the 31st, so that we can
Yeah.
figure out if there's a way to cut trees.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. So the next item on the agenda, it's a returning project, Pilati Village, 98 Harriman Heights Road. Just state your names for the record, and we could start talking about where we are in the process.
Yep, sure. Michael Morgante, project engineer.
Frank Villacilto, Creighton Manning, traffic engineer.
Thank you, and I think we need to get, is it Aaron on, or who was getting on with us? Should we tackle the traffic first as we do this?
It sent you a Zoom.
Right. So we're going to get AKRF via Zoom online. So while I'm setting this up, again, why don't you just give a little overview of where we are, and we can tackle traffic first after that.
Sure. So we're just still focusing on development of the SWIP, getting closer. I think I received the latest round of comments from Sean's office. I actually spoke to Scott Quinn in his office earlier today, clarified some of the questions I think he had, and I think we arrived at a consensus on some design points. So we'll continue to make the revisions in the latest comment letter. We've started progressing the site plan, other site plan elements a little bit, and with this next submittal, we'll continue to develop the water and sewer portions of the project. We do have the hydrogeologist kind of gearing up at this point right now. He's developing a work plan for drilling and testing of the wells that we will ultimately submit to the health department and this board. You should expect to see something on that in the next few weeks. We have today retained a consultant to prepare the visual analysis that was requested by the board. So hopefully within the next few weeks, that'll be provided to us also, and we'll submit that. You have the traffic impact study that was prepared by Frank's office, and we have some of those comments from AKRF that we can address tonight also. So in terms of site plan development, again, we're getting a lot closer to completing the SWIP portion of the project, which will allow us to kind of pay attention to the other site plan details that'll be required.
All right, so let me check. Alex, are you there? Aaron, you there? Can you hear us? Hold on, I have to see, I can't hear you. Hold on. Okay, go ahead and speak. No, still not hearing you, hold on. George, is the speaker PN E521 Intel display audio? I did.
Yeah.
Have this. Good. Coming through. Oh, we can hear you now. And just so you know, Alex is muted. All right, so we're just waiting for AKRF to get ready to come online so that the traffic consultants can communicate with one another.
Hard to understand.
Okay. So he's via phone as opposed to computer? Oh, okay. There you are. Why don't we start with Creighton Manning presenting their analysis, and then you can go through some of the points based on the review of that report? Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you again. Again, Frank Filicciotto with Creighton Manning for the record. At the last meeting we were here in February, we discussed some concerns about traffic generation related to the project. There was a specific concern about how much the senior residential development would generate and what effect that traffic would have on adjacent intersections. And what we agreed upon at that meeting, planning board and team here, was to do a sensitivity analysis that looked at a hypothetical development on the subject property that was much larger than what's proposed, to illustrate how much capacity is available in the surrounding roadway network, so that if we sort of get it wrong with the development that we're proposing and traffic is much higher, we will have looked at that factor of safety analysis and be comfortable that it wouldn't exceed a reasonable or acceptable level. So what we did was we looked at a development plan that is significantly larger than what we're proposing. 250 units of senior adult housing, 400 units of multifamily residential apartments, and 100 units of residential townhomes. So that is compared to 100 units of senior housing, 60 units of residential multifamily, and 18 units of townhomes. So quite a significant increase in this hypothetical scenario. We calculated the trip generation associated with that hypothetical development, distributed onto the roadways with the same assumptions as we made in the original traffic study, and analyzed the intersection of Harriman Heights Road and Orange Turnpike. And we found that even with those increased levels of traffic, you would still have a level of service B at that intersection. I'm sorry, level of service C or better at that intersection during the peak hours. And the change in delay was a matter of seconds. So a handful of seconds in delay increase as a result of that project. So we concluded that even if the traffic associated with the senior housing project is double what we're proposing, you'd still have more than enough capacity in the roadway to handle it, and there would not be any adverse impacts on the adjacent intersections. So that was the sensitivity analysis. We worked with AKRF to essentially review that. I know they issued a letter last week. We've reviewed it. Their review focuses on the prior traffic study that was submitted in December, as well as a sensitivity analysis. There were a number of comments on the traffic study that we're more than happy to address and incorporate it, but none of them, in my expert opinion, would change the findings of the analysis. There's nothing there that would be material in terms of impacts related to traffic, because we've shown that there could be a very, very large hypothetical project that would not change the levels of service. So I hope that provides a background. I'm happy to answer any questions. We could go line by line, but I think we're willing to address the comments. I just wanted the board to understand that we don't think there's anything material in terms of the changes that would be made to throw off any conclusions that we've already made. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, then, we do have a copy of the comment memo from AKRF with regard to the review of the analysis. So, Alex, do you want to take us through that? Alex? Alex, sorry, can I interrupt? Are you on a speakerphone or are you speaking into the phone? It's a little difficult to hear you. I don't know if perhaps you can speak a little slower, and I don't know, again, what system you're on, but I think sometimes it's kind of... I think so. We'll see. Were these comments raised by Jason?
Yes.
So, yeah, Jason isn't here this evening, so.
Directly to address Jason's comment, being that Jason's not here, again,
And if I just may. Yeah, I just wanted to reflect on that a little bit because, again, this is a comment where I think Jason was getting at was he was saying there could be a larger portion of the senior housing development that actually work and commute to the city. And that may end up being the case. The ITE data does not reflect that, but if there is a unique situation here and there is more of a population that ends up commuting, I think the sensitivity analysis addresses that because it assumes a senior development that's 2.5 times the size, and all of that traffic leaving at that peak hour. I don't see how that would move the needle, but again, we're happy to address the comment. I think it's best addressed by the sensitivity analysis, quite frankly. I just wanted to add a little color to those two comments, because getting into driving habits of potential residents is, who's to say what their driving habits are? I can't tell you what their driving habits are, but I can tell you what the data is associated with tens and hundreds of senior housing developments in the country. So I'd rather stay on that side and not vary into the unknown.
So with the IT trip generation rates, when you have senior housing or active adult housing, they come from anywhere. They're just a series of studies. So the studies could be in locations that have no commuter trains, or places that are in urban areas that you do have that.
Correct.
So it's an average.
It's typically suburban locations.
Okay.
But you're right that there could be suburban locations that don't have rail access, like Monroe has a rail access. But that would lead to a more auto-centric development, which
Right.
would increase the traffic. So we're on the conservative side.
So essentially, by analyzing a much larger project, that would have taken into account, what you're stating is that would have taken into account any additional drivers that could be generated as a result of that they're commuters and they're going to.
Right.
What it doesn't address, and which may be beyond our control, is he talked about one train that allows a commuter to arrive in Midtown Manhattan by 9 a.m. We don't control Metro North, so regardless of what their schedule is their schedule. If they felt the need to add any additional trains or times, that would be up to them.
Yeah.
So, while I appreciate the comment, I don't know that there's a lot that we can do about it.
I think
I think the question was whether that's a unique scenario, whether that there's going to.
Right. We appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
I think that the question really goes to whether there's going to be, a substantial amount of, it's anticipated there's going to be a lot more traffic at that hour headed towards the train station. I don't know whether that's something that you could determine or how to analyze that.
even if there were, basically the analysis, if every single person in that senior housing development were to commute to New York City in 1 hour every morning, you would not have an impact on the roadway. So that assumes every single resident commutes by car to Harriman at, I guess, 6:30 in the morning in order to get there by 9. I think that's what he was saying. So at that point, traffic levels on the road are much lower than they are at 8 a.m. So I think we can respond to that comment and kind of point these out, but I think I think the sensitivity analysis really illustrates the point that there's plenty of capacity in the road to accommodate this, even if everyone was a train commuter.
Okay. Ax, you want to continue through the comments? Sure. We asked if he was on a speakerphone. I think you're probably on a cell phone, right? Correct. Right. Is that volume better? Yes, that volume's better.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Item number 11, regarding the soccer field. We did have one comment regarding the ITE rates that were utilized for determining the trips for the soccer field. usually presents two methods for determining trip generation rates. There's an actual rate and then there's a separate equation. Just looking at the equation, there was a pretty substantial difference between the trip generation numbers between the ITE rate and the ITE equation. So we just requested that Chris Manning testify their use of the rate that actually generates a lower number of trips. So once we get that back from Chris Manning, maybe we can get that another look over as well. Again, items number 12 and 13 are again requested for additional technical information.
Could I interrupt for 1 second? I actually, just because I've coached soccer. Yeah, yeah.
If I may just, Alex, if I may just interrupt you for just 1 second, we're happy to do that. I want to just note the Orange County DPW, which does have jurisdiction over the roadway, has already evaluated the site distance for all driveways proposed, and they've issued a conceptual approval letter. So I would not want to change any of the methodology associated with that because the county has already stated its claim. But if there are errors or anything in there that you've found, we of course correct them. Or any clarifications that are needed. I just want to make a point that the county has weighed in on that. They are the jurisdictional agency with respect to site distance on the road. So,
Can I ask a quick question related to site distance? There are these older pillars and stone walls along segments of the property.
Correct.
To meet site distance, is there any proposal to take out any pillars?
There are proposed modifications to them, kind of a chamfering effect, if you will. They come parallel with the road. The idea would be to slant them so that they're outside the driver's eye in some cases.
So they'll be reconstructed?
They could be reconstructed. All we did is identify where they do obstruct the sight line and where they would need to be removed. I don't know if we're as far along in the site plan yet.
Yeah, I'm particularly concerned about the big posts.
I know what you mean,
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
I'll bring a picture up.
I'm familiar with one on the I guess it would be the south side of Harriman Heights Road that's not in a sight line. The ones that we identified are a little bit smaller.
And we're balancing, I believe Harriman Heights Road is also a scenic road. And that is specifically the type of structures that are supposed to be preserved. Maybe too far. It's odd.
Yeah, it's funny, I was looking at this the other day, I don't think you can get too
Huh.
far down. You can only go past Mansion Ridge a little bit and see the first entrance on the left.
Yeah, that seems to be, there's some, like there's a break in it.
Yeah, right there's about as far as you can get for some reason.
I wonder if we have one here. Do most people know what I'm referring to?
But what we can do is if Frank is saying that we have to chamfer. If Frank is suggesting that we may need to trim them back or chamfer them, what we can do is kind of chamfer them and turn them into the site to keep the site feature, so to speak. You follow what I'm saying? But get it out of the way of any impedance to the site distance. I think we can probably work those details out.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's very much.
The stone wall's beautiful. We want to
Yeah.
keep as much of it as we can.
Yeah, the stone wall, and then
there's no reason not to, because there's nothing really outside of the site distance from the project that would impact it.
right.
So do I understand what you're saying is that by doing that, effectively you would widen the opening between the pillars to allow for a better sight distance, and yet you're going to preserve
Right.
the structure?
Right. We could relocate the structure so that it's turned into the site, so
Right,
that it's
right,
not
right.
out blocking your site distance.
Yeah, so instead of coming like this, it would basically come in like this?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. We'll work that part out. And I'm not that far along on the site plan at this point yet. We're finishing up the SWIP.
Okay, but the piers can be
For sure, we'll
preserved.
relocate.
Do they have to be relocated, or they can be?
We'll have to look at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Site distance analysis right now. It appears that we only need to do it for the south driveway. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
It appears that we only need to do it for the south driveway of the senior housing development.
No, there's one on Cromwell Hill. It's like this. That's what they are. Right. So I think that's what we're really trying to preserve those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's saying this, so the southwestern driveway with the senior housing. The southwestern driveway associated with the senior housing, which is the existing driveway that's actually already there, I believe. So we may need to move those pillars back a little bit off the road, and what we'll do is we'll just realign the pillars so that they kind of bend and turn a radius into the site a little bit, and we can maintain our site distance that way while also maintaining the architectural feature.
Do they show up on the existing conditions plans?
I think they do, yeah.
We use that.
Yeah, you may have to zoom in a bit. I don't have a large scale for that, I don't believe.
You said the south.
So I think, yeah, I mean, there's only two entrances, right, on the south side. So is it the one that's closer to the golf course, Frank, or the one that's, yeah, so it's that existing wider entrance, yeah. I know the stone wall, it's located as a stone wall. Whether or not I have enough detail to show where the actual piers are, that may not be on the site plan.
I see these two something here, but I don't know if that's what that is at this scale. So, yeah, let's make sure to locate them and
Yeah.
to address that. All right, went on a tangent, sorry about that. Okay. Yes.
Correct. So, number 17, ATF has just requested a healing analysis be included as part of the traffic study, which was presented at the 95th percentile of Q, just to demonstrate if there would be any backup areas that would block any nearby driveways
Yes.
Okay, great. Item number 18, again, this refers back again to our comment regarding the trip generation for the soccer field. So this ties back in. So we just wanted to get verification that with the verified trip generation for the soccer field, what would actually be the number of trips generated by the soccer field utilizing either the ITD rate or equation. So again, that ties back to the previous comment regarding soccer field trip generation.
Just to add one comment on that.
Moving ahead,
Al-
next section was regarding
Alex?
Alex,
Alex,
hold.
1 second, Alex.
Alex, hold on a second. Frank has a question or comment.
Yeah, I just want to make everyone aware, the soccer field isn't part of this project. The land is being given, right, to the town for future development?
It is. We're building the soccer.
Oh, we are building, okay.
For the town. So
Sorry.
it's-
I misspoke. That's why we included it in the first place, but I wasn't sure on the logistics of it. Okay. We'd be happy to comment on that.
This is a good segue for me to jump in.
Yeah.
So I've been coaching in this town for 15 years, and I don't know where these numbers come from. I really don't.
Numbers for
the trip generation for a soccer field. If you want to get an idea for trip generation for a soccer field, go take a look at Monbassia Park. First of all, no soccer games are played on a Saturday. They're played on Sundays in this town. Very few are played on Saturdays. This seems like it's assuming that all the traffic is going to one field for every game that we play. We have like 10 soccer fields in the town of Monroe. Most of our games are actually played at the high school. I can tell you, because I'm on the board for the soccer club in Monroe, this at best is going to be a practice field for us. We may not even use it for games on the weekends. So this is a larger parking area than even Monbassia is. Depending on the age group that you're coaching at that time, at 12 and under, you're talking about maybe 10 to 12 players on a team, half of which carpool with a parent to go to the game. If you're talking about an older team, you're talking about 18 players at most on a team if all of them show up on the weekend. Worst case scenario, so you're talking about 18 to 20 vehicles in any given 2-hour period. So I just don't even know, like practically speaking, where these numbers even come from. I understand ITE and whatnot, but it seems like we're funneling everything to one spot at one time, which is absolutely not how this functions.
Well, so it probably is ITE that's generating the numbers, but then there may be what the actual practice is in Monroe. But I have to say, as you're describing that, the realities of the soccer club, do we actually need a soccer field?
We absolutely do.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have plenty of baseball fields, we have plenty of football fields. We don't have nearly enough soccer fields.
Okay, and this is dedicated to soccer, or can it be used for other?
I don't know what the town board's going to do with that exactly, but I do believe the predominant use is supposed to be for soccer.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I've been told. It's only labeled as a soccer field, not even a multi-sport. I mean, the numbers are just so far off. I mean, just go take a look at any one of our soccer fields on a Sunday and see how the traffic actually operates. It's maybe 1/5 of the numbers we're talking about, if even that. I've never seen more than 40 cars total between between two teams at any event. I don't even think we have 40 spaces at Monbassia. And yet we completely function fine with traffic at Monbassia every Sunday. So, I mean, it gets a little congested, but what I'm getting at is it functions fine with less than 40 spaces. So I can't understand where the numbers come from. I think there needs to be something.
I'm looking at them right now, Mike, for the average rate at the 11th edition, 37 peak hour trips. The equation, interestingly enough, assumes that regardless of the number of fields that you have, there's going to be at least 156 trips, regardless. That's how the equation works, which is not really reliable when you think about it. One field generating 156 trips in 1 hour. You couldn't get in and out. So I think there's limitations with ITE, which is why you have to choose between rates and equations. We'll address the comment. I would not advise changing to the higher number.
So so just so I understand, because the comment is the site would generate more than 100 site-generated trips for the weekday PM and Saturday midday peak when combined with the trips from the senior adult housing and multi-family housing components. So that sounds like it's 100 cumulative. What is it without, right, so what is it without the multifamily and senior adult? Do we know? The SOC, just the soccer alone?
On its own.
Yeah.
For instance, on Saturday, using the 11th, the current edition of ITE is 37 trips in the Saturday peak hour.
Right, so this is cumulative, but is 37 actually what is reflected here?
In what?
So, Alex, maybe I'm not saying this or understanding this.
Right, exactly. Essentially what we were saying is that in looking at the number of trips generated using the rate versus using the equation, the one that generates the higher value, when combined with the senior housing and the multifamily housing, that cumulative total would be over 100 trips.
That's for all three uses. So I don't think we're trying to say it's 100 trips just for the soccer. It's for all three. So
But I'm seeing in comment number 12, I'm sorry, 11.
okay. Because I was looking at 18.
37 versus 182 trips. I'm not sure I'm understanding what that means or what that is.
That's the two different ways to run the analysis.
But 182 trips for a soccer game is so insanely unrealistic, it's not even funny.
But I don't know that that was done. I think you used the 37.
We use the lower number.
Right.
Right, but what's the comment suggesting?
Comment's just asking for justification as to why you're using that number, which
37.
Correct.
responded to with what you said.
Okay. We move on to sensitivity analysis?
Sure. So, items number 19 through 21, essentially, it's just a summary of just requesting some of the same technical backup that we requested for the main traffic study. Again, it's just a request for some of the same backup information. So there's really no new technical comments specific to the sensitivity analysis. Again, most of these are just a rehash of the same comments that were made before for the main traffic study.
Okay. Now, site plan comments?
Do you guys have the site plan comments? Should we pull it up? Sure, that'd be great. Thanks, sir.
Share your screen, I think.
Yeah, the site plan comments? Yeah, I do have them up. I have them up.
Item number 22, again, this is just a notation, a comment. We just noticed that on the master development plan scale drawing, the parking requirements were quoted as being taken from the ICD-10 generation, but that is the trip generation and mobile buildings. And I believe they had put
Thank you. Did you all have any comments with regard to the memo?
No, I have no, I take no exception to any of the comments that were site plan related. We just haven't gotten to that portion of the project yet to give that level of detail, but we do appreciate the comments. The one question I would ask the board that I wasn't sure about was the parking behind the senior building. It seems to be suggested to potentially make that one-way traffic. I'm not sure that the board would want us to consider doing that. I mean, we would end up having to have angled parking. It would change the layout completely of that particular area. We do like the sidewalk addition around the perimeter of the parking. I think that's very worthwhile, but I think it makes more sense to have two-way traffic for that parking lot in the back over there as opposed to, if the intention, according to the diagram I'm looking at, is to have it as one-way traffic. I mean, we would lose a lot of parking spaces that we would have to end up relocating someplace else, creating additional impervious surface. I'm not sure it's maybe the best approach. I do like the other suggestions, though, on the site plan. I do agree with them. Although I'm not 100% sure about the spots that are to be relocated just to the top of the page across from where we have the circular portion of the entrance over there. I guess that's maybe for a safety consideration at that intersection. But those could probably be relocated. But I'm not sure about the traffic circulation in the rear of the parking lot, if that's something the board would like us to consider or not.
So Alex, in terms of that comment, right now it's shown as two-way traffic. Was the idea to change the parking configuration or change the aisle width or just have it circulate one way?
And you're referring to the southern parking area, correct, for the senior house, correct?
Yes.
Okay, right. The intent was to have the circulation one way if possible. Again, this produces a vehicle conflict. And one of the reasons why that was mentioned was there's, towards the entrance of that parking area, there's an intersection kind of like along that 45-degree angle where the two parking aisles meet. That's kind of like where the loop comes back around. So since it's not a 90-degree angle, it kind of presents an awkward position for people making entrance from those parking spaces at that angled area. They have people maybe turning, resulting for entering the parking space. One option may be to place some of the parking spaces at that location at an angle and possibly keep the remaining parking spaces at 90-degree parking.
What if you look at the southerlymost,
Couldn't we put a stop sign there? Which
well,
it would stop traffic. There would be no issues at that intersection at that point. We could put a stop sign with a stop bar on the northern side of the parking in that location. I really strongly feel that two-way traffic in this parking area is going to help the flow of traffic and maneuverability here as opposed to a one-way system where we're going to be losing quite a few parking spaces and needing to relocate them someplace else and again, possibly increase impervious surface. I just don't see I agree with all the other comments that were provided.
so to get something that's closer to 90 degrees for that intersection, if I look at the southerly line of parking spaces, if you take the eastern 3 or 4 out, and then you extend the drive, does that create almost more of a 90-degree angle?
If you're drawing on a screen, I can't see it.
Regarding those, we had to look 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 spaces on the easterly, on the western portion of that southern parking lot. If those could be relocated, again, this is a suggestion. That would help to clear
Okay.
Just while we're waiting for Alex to do that, I just can't help but comment, this is a senior housing development. These are people who are going to be intimately familiar with where they're parking. It's not high turnover. This isn't a retail use. I think we're trying to find a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. Candidly, these types of interactions in a parking lot are commonplace. We should put up a stop sign, some paint on the parking lot, which was one of Alex's recommendations, and let it be. I think when you force a one-way circulation, you also entice people to disobey it, especially if you're parked where your cursor is now, Bonnie. Sorry, Chair Franson. Someone would have to go all the way around. It's an annoyance that really does not need to be compelled for this type of use. Retail, different story. High turnover, lots of interaction. This is going to be a sleepy parking lot behind a senior housing residential development.
So just Alex, why don't you describe, I don't know if you were able to hear Frank, but why don't you describe what or show us what you're going to show us in this image? Yes.
Those are referring to these spaces here.
Correct.
Right. So I believe those are the spaces you were referring to behind you previously.
Yes.
So what that does is by relocating these spaces, you reduce the conflict with traffic moving in this direction. Coming out at a 45-degree angle. Because what you have here is you have a few different conflicting movements, and you have people reversing out, for example, this space here, reversing out of here, reversing out of here. You have people making turning movements left here. And you have people making turning movements here, people backing out here. So this particular area here is a bit of a conflict zone. So our recommendation is, if possible, is to maybe relocate some of these spaces.
Yeah, because then you,
So I would say that two-way traffic flow is completely out of the question here. I still think it's feasible, but again, really our primary concern was
That's what it comes down to.
where you have these left turn movements here, you've got conflicting movements here. And again, I'm not sure if there's vegetation plans for these areas as well, or what the lines of sight are as well. But again, if some of these conflict zones could be reduced by relocating a few of these spaces, I think that would help a lot.
okay, thank you for that. I think we understand a little better now that you described the backing out, et cetera, what you're addressing in the comment.
Just to make sure I'm understanding, because I can't hear him at all, we're talking about relocating 3 spaces right where your cursor is.
Yeah, like maybe 4 spaces. But by doing that, you now don't have vehicles backing out or trying to maneuver to exit in a place where people are also now trying to go to that upper part of the lot, the northern part of the lot. It's those spaces right there.
Okay.
I think let's examine it and see what we could do.
Okay, if I can find another place on the site for those spaces, I'd be glad to relocate 3 spaces.
Okay. Yeah, and again, I think just look at it from, how many spaces do we need to remove to then get rid of that conflict right in there. Okay. Jeff?
I think that two-way traffic most of the parking has spaces that are offset from spaces across from it. It's very typical of what you would find in a retail parking lot, and I can't think of an example where it isn't two-way traffic like that. I feel like if right before those 4 spots, as you're coming in the entrance into that parking area, if you had a stop there, as well as a stop coming out of the angled area, you slow down traffic at that point where if people happen to be backing out of those spots, you've reduced the amount of conflict. You may not have completely eliminated it, But you've given people an opportunity to see, oh, hey, somebody's backing out here, which, if you're in a parking lot, you should be looking for anyway. But hey, listen, I drive, and I'm not a good driver, so I'm the guy backing out without looking that you got to look for.
I think a stop sign in that location pretty much takes care of the entire situation. Yeah.
Anybody else? Anything?
No comment, no?
Nick, any thoughts?
So what about some speed bumps? I know some older people that like to drive pretty fast in parking lots. So was there any plan on that, or it was just an idea?
There wasn't any, but
That's all I had.
Yeah, I'm still at the maybe lose a couple spaces. I think it would just help a bit. A couple spaces and a traffic sign. And I think we could stay with the two-way if we could just take care of that little area.
let me see if I can find another spot for them.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Alex?
No, that's all on my end, so thank you all for your attention, I appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Frank or Mike, is there anything else you wanted to touch base with Alex about, or?
No, I think the onus is on us. We'll prepare a resubmission back addressing the comments to the board and to AKRF and hopefully resolve them for the next hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex and Aaron as well.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Bye. You too. All this technology gets tiring. All right, so that was traffic. So why don't we jump to Sean and your comments?
So as Mike noted, a number of the changes with regards to this resubmission were SWIP items. There were some significant changes that our office commented on, but I believe Mike's working with our reviewer on trying to get those addressed. There weren't, I'll say, there weren't a lot of changes other than grading and SWIP with this submission, but I just wanted to touch on a couple with regards to the water system. On the southern side of the building, I finally realized how close all the hydrants are to the building. So, yeah, so I believe Ashley had previously referred the plans and asked the fire department to comment, but I think it's important to get some input from the fire department, especially given the size of these structures. Which fire department is this again? Monroe Joint Fire
It is
District.
joint, okay.
And then with regards to the water system on the north side, so for the mixed, residential development, there is an existing well noted, and I believe that's to be reused in the ultimate build-out?
We'll let you know soon. We're considering it. So we'll have to pump test it and see if it actually has adequate water supply.
So with that, I assume there's an existing distribution system?
There must be, yeah.
Okay.
It
So
probably serves Little Pal's preschool at one point.
Okay, so I just wanted to understand that distribution system as well as who it serves, and if that'll be combined with this distribution
We'll look into
system.
that, yep.
All right, okay. Had a note about the retaining wall on the northern site, clean up with parking stalls, and then Mike had already noted the visual assessment that they're working on that. And then I think we really need to hear back on the water and wastewater aspects before, and the SWIP, obviously, before the board can
Yeah,
consider.
I'll follow up with the DEC and see
Secret.
if they've got some input for me yet on it. I haven't heard anything back.
So,
Thank you. Ashley?
Nothing really to report. You're still in the process of looking at things from a secret perspective, and you're waiting on, you have some more consultants that you had retained that are
Right.
still going to be viewing it. I don't think we've received anything else, so we could follow up with them.
Yes. Yeah, just to keep moving.
I would note, I did find what I believe is an additional wetland on the site. So when I was setting up, we're doing some additional soil testing this week for infiltration basin number 1. And it's pretty apparent to me it's a fairly wet area. I think what happened originally, I spoke to the wetland consultant. I think he showed the sketch location of where the wetland was supposed to be shown on his map in the wrong spot, and the surveyor misinterpreted it for something else. This is what I've come up with. So I had our wetland consultant go back out there last Tuesday. The flags are hanging. I think the surveyor is going to go out there this week and pick them up.
About where is it?
I'll show. So it's if you could bring up my grading plan by any chance, that would be the most useful. So I don't want you to be surprised when you see another wetland on the map when I make my next submission.
Surprise.
So yeah, go to the grading plan and take a look at it. So just to the left of the multifamily apartments and the townhouses behind the soccer field.
Here or?
No, keep going up and to the left. So behind the multifamily buildings, yeah, in that area roughly, right? So if you see there's on the left-hand side of the multifamily buildings there's like these little what look like maybe pond-shaped looking lines there. That's where the wetland is. Keep going up the page. A little bit more. Right there. Yeah. So there's like a little wetland in that spot right there that actually discharges underneath a footbridge that goes through Mansion Ridge.
Well, it's interesting because it's showing up as a line type as if it is being called out, right?
Yeah, as a water body, not necessarily a wetland, though.
Oh, okay.
So, I
'Cause
mean,
you also
it's a
have-
little bit bigger than what's shown there.
Yeah, and you also seem to have some kind of like 100-foot line around it? Or is that something else?
That's something else. That might be vegetation or something, I'm not sure. But there's something in that area, so we've hung flags. We're going to map it, so you'll see it coming up. And so I was out there making sure that the infiltration basin we're proposing obviously won't impact that. So we staked out the limits of the infiltration basin as I have it currently designed on this last submittal, and it doesn't appear that we'll impact it. But when I get the flags, I'll put it on a map and we'll confirm it.
So I had heard from someone who observed things going on out on the site. Is there work being done on either of there's one wastewater treatment plant, is that correct? Or is there two?
Yeah, there's two.
On either side of the road?
There is work being done. The wastewater treatment plant on the northern side, they ended up getting new contractors out there. It used to be JPK. JPK no longer. Joe Klopshin passed away, I think, about a year ago. So they've now used JCO as their contractor to handle the both wastewater treatment plants. So essentially, they went through and did kind of like a reconnaissance, gave some suggestions to the Palatine sisters on some upgrades that should be performed, and that's really what we're doing. So we've
Was it this one that's on this side or on the other side that they were recently doing work?
Both sides. Both sides. So
Okay.
On the south side, we replaced the flow meter now and the transducer. So now we're getting super accurate readings. Finally, I've been asking for this for 2 years. There's barely any flow going to that plant now. We've come to. There's actually zero flow going to the sand filter on the other side. What happened too was on the sand filter side, there was some damage to some of the goosenecks and cleanouts. So during the snow melt, we recently had some of that water it was infiltrating into the effluent pump station. So that's kind of been corrected. In order to get to the sand filter and do some of these repairs, they had to build a little gravel road alongside the northern edge of that sand filter because the ground's too soft. You couldn't drive on it with a truck. And so that's some of the work that's being done out there. That's really what it comes down to.
So that gravel road and some of the work that was being done, was any of it done within the wetland or within a wetland?
No.
Okay.
Nothing.
And I think just in the future, if there are so Are these repairs being done to a point where they would then make this operable for this project, or was this
is
needed regardless?
This is routine operation and maintenance. It goes on whether we're here before the board or not. That's really what it is.
Okay. I think if there's any work being done on the site in general, should let Noreen know, Sean know, Ashley know, someone know. Just because we're in seeker, and so we're not really supposed to be disturbing things, but I appreciate that it was for routine maintenance.
Yeah.
So, because people observe things
Understood.
happening, and then they come out and say, why is there stuff being done on the site?
Understood, point taken. It's like I said, it's routine operation and maintenance. It would occur regardless, so it just slipped my mind from that perspective that you just provided.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Ashley, was there anything else or no? No. Board members, do you have any comments or questions? No? Nick? Jeff, no?
No.
No? Not at this point. I just think there's still work that has to be done,
Yep.
right? So
Yeah.
this is just, okay. And we're still waiting for some reports and whatnot to start to close out seeker, but those are being worked on.
Yes. Yeah, I think one of
And-
the biggest things for us is to get some feedback from the DEC at this point. We need to,
Okay. And then we need to just hear from our other consultants who are supposed to be working on this.
I'll follow up with them.
Okay, thank you.
all right.
Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, take care now.
Thanks. With that, we are down 2 minutes. We have January 13th and the 19th, the 10th. No 10th?
No, I thought it was finished. I still had BJ's I was working on.
All right,
You
so
just had the 2 Januaries.
do we have enough people for the 13th and 19th?
Bonnie, Jeff, we only have 3.
So I think I asked this of Rick. We just end up filing them, or what?
Oh, when Jay, if next month we have everybody, we should be okay, and then Nick is welcome to review the videos. If he
We had this
wants.
conversation, I already don't remember what Rick had
Yeah, he
mentioned.
said that if Nick wants to review them, then he would be able to vote on them.
Right, because we were saying it doesn't have to necessarily be, like, if there's a quorum here, even if they're not,
As long as they review it,
yeah, they
and
can,
that's,
all right. So I think we'll hold off. Maybe, Nick, you could take a look at meetings, et cetera, and we could plan on voting on these for the next meeting. Good? Yeah. All right. Anything else going on? Anything we should be aware of? No? Okay. All right. We're good. Do you have, Pat wasn't here, so you need his contact information, additional contact
Oh, I didn't
information?
bring one up tonight. I'll email it to him.
Okay.
And I also owe him the packet for tonight because I stole it and gave it to Nick.
Okay.
Because he hadn't picked it up, so I
What?
gave it to
You
Nick.
stole it?
Sorry, Pat.
Hey,
All right.
Bonnie, what,
I
which meetings do you want me to review?
So it'd be the ones that are on the agenda, which is the 13th,
Okay.
January 13th, January 19, and February 10. Oh, but you said February 10's not ready.
No, it'll be ready for the next meeting, though.
Okay, so just January 19 and 13. Thank you. All right.
Just have a housekeeping item on all of those courses that we're supposed to take for this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
Are we supposed to take all those?
4 hours.
No, he's not, you're talking about that other email from Jen. Those 4, yes, those are mandatory.
Okay.
That's not part of your continuing education.
Yeah, discrimination.
Oh, yeah,
and
those you
stuff
have
like
to
that.
take.
Mandatory, yeah.
Yeah,
they're
those are
for
mandatory.
town
So we,
hall
yeah, we took
employees.
those last year, right?
And I
We
don't,
take them every year.
and I get to take them again because I have to take them for work.
Yes, you have a lot of places you
And
have to
then
take 'em for every
sometimes certain
location.
towns also make me take them. So, yes, I should be expert by now. Yes.
I get to take sexual harassment and discrimination 3 times, if it makes you feel any better. I can quote the cases, but
There was a really good one offered here. I forget who, remember there was a,
yeah.
it was a video, I think. We were on Zoom or something.
on Zoom.
Yeah, it was actually really
I
good.
and Jason, and it was It was an attorney who was,
Yes.
I forget from where.
Yeah, no, he was very
Across the
good.
river? Or on the island? somewhere?
Yeah, I think on the island.
Yeah.
All right, since there's no other business, I will make a motion that we close our meeting. May I have a second?
So moved.
All in favor? Say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.